already seen is she is the right-handed specialist of this pitching staff. When she is on, it is because she is able to execute on her glove side. She's going to be the hardest thrower of this Gamecock staff. And really, it's the pitch that sweeps away from righties where she racks up a lot of strikeouts.
72 pitches in her 3 1/3 innings. Similar lineup again for the Razorbacks. Reagan heavy at the top. Ellis, McDowell, and Wyckoff in the middle. Day continues to bat in the 6th hole. Rio, Davison, and Miller round out the starting 9 for Courtney Deifel. So each team with the win. Again, Arkansas had 14 unanswered runs this weekend, but after a run rule victory Friday, lost a 4-0 lead yesterday. And here we go with Reagan Johnson stepping in. She's hit in 9 straight games. Back on Friday, Sydney, she picked up career hit number 200. Now she's on to the next plateau.
And as she is already climbing within Arkansas's program within the offensive records, she's surpassed 200, now just continuing on.
She was thrown out trying to steal last night on a really big throw from Winners. That was an impactful portion of this game because it's an Arkansas team that is not homered in 3 straight games. So that's a little bit unusual. Good bunt, maybe another hit for Reagan Johnson. Indeed it is. 51 hits for Reagan Johnson, a double-figure hit streak, and she's on base yet again.
And for Reagan Johnson, that bunt, that is picture perfect, to say the least. She squares her barrel out in front, just does just enough with that bottom hand to control the ball more towards the first base side to buy her time, not like she needs it, but with her speed for a base hit.
So 2 caught stealings this year. Last night, the only one where she's legitimately been thrown out. The other was when she left first a bit early. Reagan Kramer coming off a 3-hit game to raise her average all the way up to 341. And we know Bree Ellis looming on deck. I was saying Arkansas is not homered in 3 straight games, so they scored a ton of runs Monday without the long ball, 10 runs without a homer on Friday. Yesterday, it was tough. Again, teams pitching around Bree Ellis. Courtney Day trying to find her groove again after missing 3. And it's the South Carolina staff, Sydney, that I think has done a really good job changing speeds, throwing change-ups, keeping balls away from the heart of the zone against Arkansas's power hitters.
And you just hit the nail on the head, Brett. The way that they have been so effective with changing their speeds has kept the Arkansas offense off balance, especially in yesterday's game. It's also the movement that they have that is just enough where it is around the strike zone, but it's not waste pitches out of the strike zone that are taken for balls.
It reminds me a little bit of that Super Regional against Texas a couple of years ago. I know it was a painful remembrance because Arkansas was pounding balls foul. They were trying to get pitches to drive, and Texas was not willing to give them something. Kramer pounds one to right, but caught by Knight. Well struck, but an out. And there's one gone, and it brings up Bree Ellis, and this becomes the chess match within games of how teams want to pitch, or if they want to pitch at all, to Bree Ellis.
And on Friday, we saw South Carolina not pitch to Bree Ellis. Yesterday, it was a different story. They were in some situations where they had to pitch to her, but were very precise with where they were pitching her. You know, it's just interesting as the game progresses. How do you make that decision as a coach?
Well, Bree was 0 for 2 yesterday, and I think yesterday's conversation, you know, I'm leading the charge of you can't pitch to her when she has a chance to beat you. There was some confusion in the telecast last night. Well, why aren't they walking her? Well, it was the exact same scenario that they got burned on Friday night. Runners at first and second, 1-run lead. And by a walk, you put a couple of runners in scoring position where a hit puts you behind. McDowell made them pay on Friday. They were willing to pitch to Bree, albeit not give her something to hit yesterday in that same situation.
Correct. And I even think within that, less than 2 outs as well, you know, and they're walking her to load the bases. And, you know, I'm so glad that you brought that up. Friday they got burned by it. Saturday it worked out in their favor.
And I said 3, it's 4 straight games without a homer. So when you keep Bree Ellis from being able to swing and you're putting her on base or you're working around her, Courtney Day missed a couple trying to get back into the groove. Those are by far your 2 best power hitters, at least in league games. And this again is a home run friendly day. So maybe part of the recipe for the Razorbacks will be to hit a long ball, and I'll be curious to see if Bree or others will get chances against pitchers like Hurd or Gress or whomever else comes behind.
And so far in this at-bat, Hurd is working Bree Ellis down in the zone. She has not thrown 1 pitch up.
Keep in mind, Bree has homered at least once in every SEC series this season, but she went 8 straight plate appearances in a couple of SEC games without having an at-bat. And 0 for 2 yesterday, even though she hit a rocket to third that wasn't handled by Chansey. Hurd really trying to get Bree to maybe expand the zone and make it out. And that's the pitch. It's down and in, it's up and in that they really want to get her to swing at.
Not leaving anything belt high, keeping it at the knees, keeping it at the letters.
Count's gone full. 3 infielders on the left side of the diamond. Ellis with a mile-high pop-up. Not an easy play for Rhodey, and she's going to get there. There was a split second of trepidation where I thought that wind was going to carry the ball away from her, and there was no teammate to help. My goodness, did she hang with it to make the play.
And what a play Rhodey made, as we see Shelton is on the other side of second base. She had to travel a very long way, and with the wind blowing, it's not going to end up where it started, which was more by first base.
And that's a case where I think South Carolina took a full infield today. It's a really good defensive team that didn't have quickly in the dugout. Ella McDowell, you see the runs batted in. On Friday night, she delivered 5 for Arkansas, including that 3-run double in the 5th inning. 0 for 3 last night with another RBI and a bases loaded walk. She's hit 6 home runs. Only 2 Razorbacks, though, have hit more than 2 homers in the 17 league games. And this is when it's harder. You're facing better pitchers. You're facing a staff of pitchers. Carolina will mix and match and utilize different pitchers in high leverage situations. But I think Arkansas would breathe a little bit easier if they hit one over that fence.
A home run would do the trick, setting the tone early on in the game.
So McDowell continues to back cleanup even with Day back. Ropes that one but fouled outside third base.
And you know, one thing that you just brought up, Brett, is about South Carolina pitching by committee and Coach Chastain Woodard. One thing she talked about is, to her, the pitching staff is very slim, but the effectiveness that they are able to create with all 5 pitchers pitching by committee, it's what has led them to the success throughout this season. And her goal this entire season is to get the pitchers out on the field as much as possible, outside of on the field in game, spending as much time with them as she can during practices. And she really wanted to note that this is a very selfless position group.
Hard hit and fair. Past Chansey rolling into the corner. Vincent's going to cut it off, though, to keep Johnson from scoring. And Sydney, you know left field in this ballpark. If Vincent isn't able to get there and that goes to the fence, Johnson's probably going to come around and plate the first run.
And I am telling you, Brett, you just hit the nail on the head with this swing by McDowell, driving it down the third baseline past Chansey. She did a phenomenal job of cutting that off, because if it gets into that corner, Reagan Johnson's scoring all day, and it could turn into a double, maybe even pushing for a triple.
A hard, long single from McDowell. She's trying to get her clipboards to work and her her note cards in that wristband. Arkansas with runners on the corners. Wyckoff the batter. And there's a visit in the circle. And we were just talking about mixing and matching. And listen, I think Carolina's done a nice job of it this year. When their baseball team came to town, Paul Maneri, their new head coach, felt like maybe their pitching staff had overachieved just a bit. They didn't have that real true ace, that power arm that most teams do. They were trying to mix and match. And listen, that's tough, because I feel like at times South Carolina's willing to take a pitcher out a little bit too soon rather than leaving in too late where a big home run can change a game. But that takes so much effort to try and figure out the right times all the time to bring pitchers in and out of games.
And for a coach to make that decision, you definitely have to have that timing element, you know, where you feel as though the time is right. But it's a gamble that you're taking as a coach. Do you leave him in a little bit longer? Do you go ahead and take him out? You don't know what the outcome is going to be.
There's no crystal ball. Here's Wyckoff, and the pitch is up and out. I think Courtney Deifel going through a little bit of that as well. Did I bring the right pitcher in at the right time? It's part of the ebbs and flows. It's why these pitching coaches and head coaches get paid the big bucks to make these tough decisions. But after the visit, Wyckoff reaching for one and skying it out to left in foul territory. Vincent makes the catch, and the inning ends. Arkansas gets a couple of hits. They don't score, and we played an inning in the rubber match, game 3.
It's hard to work your way up the ladder, but she was able to be a part of such a successful program in Ole Miss, move on to be the head coach of Charlotte, and now is the head coach, and my gosh, has she turned this program around in just 1 year.
Team came into this weekend with the number 2 RPI. They have a chance to win another series. Winner's the batter. Herron threw the first one to the backstop. She needed 4 pitches for 3 outs in the first, so she was economical, but her husband came to town with his Charlotte team. They lost 3 games to the Razorback baseball team. All 3, I think, were really close. She's found a way to get a win, now trying to get 2.
And one thing that I think is so incredible that she made the point on our call before coming into this weekend is with her husband coaching in Charlotte, her being at South Carolina, them only getting a limited amount of time of seeing each other, is that they don't bring home their losses and they don't talk about as much their professions, that they solely focus on their marriage when they do get to spend that quality time together.
Listen, they need to write a book. If they're not bringing the losses home,
yeah.
I don't know how they're so successfully leaving. Maybe they don't have enough losses to worry about.
Right.
That could be part of the problem.
That's right.
Or not a problem if you look at it that way. That's ball 3 to Winners. South Carolina down 4-0 yesterday, came back for the win. That one got Winners. So hit by pitch. Arkansas had 14 unanswered runs until Carolina scored the last 5. Then again, see this one right up and in. The South Carolina baseball team was up 10 yesterday at Texas A&M and lost. A&M hit 2 grand slams in the 9th. That was a painful loss, but the South Carolina softball team had a joyous win with their comeback. Chansey socks one. Well hit right center field. This ball's got a chance and it's going to go. Clearing the wall in right center field. The second home run of the season for number 2, Ella Chansey, and the Gamecocks strike first. A hit by pitch at opposite field, line drive, home run.
And for Ella Chansey, that swing right there, the ball got out in a hurry. This ball is a little bit elevated in the zone. Her barrel so quick to contact and through extension. She knew right as she was rounding first base that that ball is out of the ballpark.
So 3 outs on 4 pitches in the first, but a couple of quick runs for the Gamecocks. And here's Blankenship, a talented shortstop. He's batting .298 with her bat.
And I'll tell you, Brett, one thing about the South Carolina offense is whether it was game 1 on Friday, the game yesterday, whether they were getting base hits, hitting a home run, or getting out, they have such loud contact. They really square up the ball well.
Yeah, consistent contact. I felt like that was a part of yesterday's formula as well to get the win. 13 hits by the Gamecocks yesterday in that 5-4 victory. Scored a couple of runs in the 3rd, 3 in the 5th. Robin fighting it a bit, 3-0 the count. I know if you're curious about Herron pitching in all 3 games, I asked Coach Deifel today whether or not she has a certain pitch number that she kind of wants to keep her pitchers at over the course of 3 games. And, you know, she said no, and that's ball 4, but they have kind of a unique system, Sydney. At some point, I'm going to have to hear more, but they have an arm care system. They go through some tests, some scores. They do a grip strength drill, if you will, and that allows them to know if these pitchers are feeling healthy more so than pitch counts. And Courtney Deifel would love to get a win today, and I think the one thing she's dealt with in these last couple of weekends, and she knows she has a young pitching staff, Sydney, but you got to find that number 2 to Robin Herron, and they found it, but every weekend it may not have been the pitcher they anticipated who was going to be the number 2. In other words, somebody pitches well one weekend, you give her a chance, it doesn't work out. Another pitcher who didn't have success gets thrown in, and she does, but it's never quite the one you expect.
Right, just trying to find a way to get in the groove. And you and I talked about this before the game. She noted a few weeks ago that it was the beginning of the season where she couldn't put pitchers in certain positions because of the run rule victories and the games that they were playing. Well, now that they've gotten into SEC play, exactly what you just said, every weekend they're trying to solidify that number 2 coming in, and it's just getting in the groove of knowing when it's time to bring in our number 2 to look to get the save or come in when we're ahead, is who's it going to be that we can rely on.
Knight hits one hard to Rio. Well, nice play, and Arkansas is going to get 2. Rio secured the smash from Knight. A quick flip to Davison and on to first, and that is nicely done for a 6-4-3.
Italia Rio, the effort on this ball. That is a hard hit ball that she doesn't choose to backhand. She gets her body behind it, firing it over to Davison to turn the double play. That is such a smart decision by Rio to not backhand that ball, to quickly turn the
I don't know
double
if
play.
she had time to turn that glove. In other words, the glove was turned almost in the wrong direction, but she used that bare hand to smother it, secure it, and then the quick exchange was fantastic. And Emma Sellers, the DP, coming off a 3-hit game, now bats with the bases empty. I think just to put a capper on our pitching discussion, I think any pitching coach, head coach, is looking for some momentum one weekend to the next. In other words, you pitch well, you play well, maybe that'll carry over, and sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So a burden has fallen on the shoulders of Robin Heron, and she's trailing 2-0 today. Maybe that double play will provide a little momentum back in Arkansas's favor.
And you know, just one more point to what you're talking about, Brett, is as we know, this game has evolved so much where it has become so offensive. And when you get into SEC play and every pitch is pressurous, every at-bat inning is pressurous, you know, you're facing the best hitters. The SEC is a very tough conference. And so to say gaining momentum from one weekend to the next, it can be a difficult task.
It can be. You know, you don't want to be too fine and risk putting runners on base. Then you know if you make a mistake, you catch too much of the plate, it has a chance to get smoked out of the park. Happened to Cam Harrison yesterday, but listen, it'll happen to a lot. Ken has gone full to Sellers. Popped up back to the screen. The competition in this league, not just week to week within a series, game to game, can be really intense. Couple of teams in the top 11 in polls in the country. Gamecocks have struck first this afternoon, and there's another one sent foul down the line in right. But how about Chansey getting the homer, just one all season? So there are some pretty big power hitters in these lineups, but Chansey the first to homer on a Sunday. Another 3-2 from Heron. Wave and a miss. Changing speeds, getting Sellers to K. Nice pitch to end the frame. But Chansey had the 2-run homer. Arkansas down.
That too was that Rhodey, when she didn't even attempt to make that play as well.
Well, whether it went through her legs or under her glove, regardless, she was in front of Courtney Day. So the rule's in play so that a fielder is not impacted by the ball hitting the runner. Well,
right.
Courtney said the first baseman had a chance at it. It was already by her, but Shelton was still close enough where she could have made the play. Regardless, Courtney's out there again, and let's see if it happens again. We've seen that a ton this year. Runners getting hit by ground balls. Rio sucks one to left. This starts to carry over the head of Vincent, over the fence. Opposite field home run from Rio. The ball's jumping today at Bogle, and each team has a 2-run homer. 5th home run of the season for Rio, and Oppo shots.
And Brad, it is almost like you manifested it at the beginning of this game with the home runs being the decision makers for the offenses. And for Italia Rio, this is a middle to outside pitch, and what a beautiful job keeping her chest and her hands just right on it and through it. I don't even think the wind played a factor in that swing to drive it over the left field wall.
Boy, Vincent was shallow and left, and I thought that ball was going to get over her head, but I was surprised when it carried over the fence. But Arkansas has its first homer after going 4 straight games without one. Their 53rd of the year. I think part of the conventional wisdom this weekend, both teams were very efficient pitching. Both were outstanding defensively. Both had really good batting averages. South Carolina was more the doubles and small ball team, but Arkansas was a little more of the home run hitting team. Carolina had led in home runs until that one.
Absolutely. And for Talia Rio, she is all smiles in the dugout.
Felt like that provided a bit of a lift as well for an Arkansas team that was running uphill. Here's Carly Davison.
And this is one thing that the Arkansas offense does outside of the numbers that they put up. It's one thing that Coach Courtney Deifel has talked about is the way that we swing the bat as an offense. It provides so much alleviation for our pitching staff because they know.
That one sucked her right, and I didn't know if Knight was going to get there. She was turning those hips left and right, but she was able to get back and make the catch on the track to take Davison's long fly into her glove for the first out.
And with this win, you will do anything that you can to secure the grab. And for Knight, she started back, she turned to her left, turned to her right, ended up catching it over her right shoulder. That's a really tough play on a high hit pop-up with this type of wind.
She made a catch on Ella McDowell yesterday, but didn't have to contend with quite that wind. And Kennedy Miller fouls one straight back to the screen. 15 miles an hour, I would say at times, maybe more so than that. Coach Chastain Woodard in our call this week said, you know, I feel like Bogle's kind of a pitcher's park, and I didn't jump in, but I felt like saying, no, I don't think so. But the wind did kind of maybe minimize a few of the big swings earlier this week. Not now. Put your seatbelt on.
And more times than not, you're going to have some wind blowing up here in Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Not a lot of fun for those outfielders, to say the least. That's deflected to the shortstop Blankenship. My goodness, she is really good. And retires Miller. Coach Woodard said that she feels like Blankenship every week should have some plays on SportsCenter's Top 10. And got to tell you what, watching some games this week, she made a backhanded play in the hole and a throw to first that just made me sit up straight and go, wow.
I was just about to say that, Brett. She makes some phenomenal plays, and the slot that she throws from is what is so impressive. You do not see a lot of girls throwing from that slot and on the run. It's so quick. But I was going to say the plays that she makes in the 5-6 hole, it's like it gives you
almost
chills.
Second to none. You're right. And even the play she made to end yesterday's game, the last out, she came charging, quick throw, quick release, made it look easy, making the difficult look somewhat routine, and that's the true mark of an outstanding defender.
She is very, very smooth.
Right now they're attending to winners. I'm not sure if something happened to Lexi, whether she took a bat or a backswing. These catchers are tough. Our plate umpire, Amarius Addis, had made some gesture to Courtney Deifel with his hands like maybe the bat got her. I'm not sure if we've got a replay or not. Bobby DeMeo, our third base umpire, Thomas Meyer at first. Here is Reagan Johnson. She hits a pop-up. This is over the screen and a couple of rows up into the seats.
And seeing this swing right here, on the backswing as she releases her bat, it got winners.
In Little League, they'd be yelling at you at the hitter for letting go of your bat, but it was just that gesture our plate umpire made to Courtney as if to say the bat circled back and hit her. And if it got her on that crazy bone, that doesn't go away quickly.
No,
she'll be feeling that numbness or sting for a while. Long fly out, hard ground out after the home run from Rio. Johnson, another little tapper and another infield base hit. She continues to have an amazing stretch. Reagan Johnson's now 5 for 8 this weekend.
And the tools that she has between power slapping, soft slapping, and bunting, she is just top tier in the left-handed batter's box as a slapper. This soft slap, she gets just around it enough and on top that she's able to deaden it right down the first baseline.
So it brings up Kramer. So she's just trying to make one hard dent, if you will, in front of the box and just let that ball spin and die?
Yes, where soft slapping is concerned, you're trying to get the ball on the inner part of your barrel and just tapping it on top enough where it dies right there in front of the plate. You also have chop slap where you're putting more momentum down through the ball when the surface is harder. But that soft slap right there by Reagan Johnson, I mean, that is perfectly placed and executed.
Well, the Gamecocks have gone to their bullpen. New pitcher will step aside in a 2-2 game here in the second. I think Kramer cared for that high strike. Lamb went 3 1/3 innings yesterday, giving up a run, improved to 9-2. There's some people in today's day and age in the bat and ball sports that poo-poo wins. I'm not one of those. I mean, that's the idea. And for somebody who's only thrown 56 innings to have 9 wins, she's been involved in some big moments. Trying to keep this game tied at 2 in the second. We know who's on deck. Everybody in the park knows who's on deck. Kramer trying to extend this inning to get Bree Ellis to the plate. That's 2 I don't know if Reagan is cared for. Those high strikes have been in vogue, and I think she's talking to herself as Bree waits. Little dribbler to third. Chansey will take it across the chalk in foul territory. Kramer hit a rocket to right, but was retired back in the first, coming off a 3-hit game. Each team with a 2-run homer. Hard ground ball back to the circle. Fielded by Lamb, and that will end the inning, but Sydney Natalia Rio even up this game with 1 big swing.
They have gained for the 3rd game now on Robin Herring.
And Vincent earns the long walk. So she reaches to begin the 3rd inning for the top of the lineup. Because at some point, when there are no secrets, you wonder as a pitcher, do you continue to go to the well with what you've had success at, or do you do things a little bit differently, maybe from a pitching strategy, a sequencing, or do you keep going after these hitters? Do you allow them to go best on best, here's what I do, and you can try and challenge it, or do you try and kind of throw them out of whack a little?
Absolutely, and it's gaining the information on not only changing the sequencing, but taking game 1 and game 2. What did they do against me? What were their tendencies earlier in the count, later in the count? And I think it's gaining that information on what their tendencies were. Did they chase the rise ball earlier in the at-bat when they got down in the count? Did they swing at the off-speed pitch? It's taking that information and piecing it together to set the sequencing.
I would agree. Count is 0-2 to Lelio. She will wave and miss. Came out of that box, tomahawked and chased after the high one. And that is the 2nd strikeout for Robin Herring.
And for Lelio choosing to slap on that pitch with the off-speed pitch, it is pertinent that you keep your hands back and allow that ball to travel. She was way out in the front of the box and had no option but to take a swing at that.
Shelton flew out to center, her only time in. She's the 5th member of her immediate family to play softball or baseball in college. She's got a brother that plays baseball at Florida. When he came through Fayetteville last year, he went 1 for 10 in the 3 games. She's already 3 for 8, so bragging rights for Carly. Brother was drafted by the Nationals in the 20th round, didn't sign. Arkansas will see him in Gainesville at the end of April.
And one thing that I read that I think is so cool between she, her brother Colby, and the sister that plays at Colgate is that they have an internal family motivation award, and that the dad gives out a championship belt each week after play to the best player.
That ball socked her right. It's going to carry over the head of Wyckoff and get up off the base of the fence. Carly might be going for the belt this weekend. She doubles to send Vincent to third. We have seen some routes in right field this weekend that have been a little bit bizarre, kind of twisting and turning. And the one thing Wyckoff was able to recover was to turn around and play the carom. and fire it back in.
And for Shelton, this ball is blistered over Wyckoff's head. Her first step was in. You always want that first step to be back to get a read on the ball. She got it in quickly.
She did. But here is Rhodey, who had the 3-run homer to basically win last night's game. That was against Harrison, facing Robin Herron. Robin struck out Rhodey twice and walked her on Friday. Two-two game in the third. South Carolina trying to jump back in front, and look where Kennedy Miller had set up with first base open. I don't think there's a great intent by which to pitch to Rhodey here.
Nope, she is set up for Robin Herron to throw off the plate and to give her that pass down first base.
Robin just about caught the corner when she was trying to miss outside. Rhodey has reached base in 33 straight games. This will be 34 the easy way.
And I'll tell you, Brett, this is just going to add to where she currently sits. She leads the nation in walks per game, and prior to this game has reached base in 30 straight games.
Yeah, she keeps on going. Lexi Winters was hit by a pitch to begin the second, scored on a homer from Chansey. Base is full of Gamecocks with only one out. Fouled back to the screen and ricocheting to Bree Ellis. Arkansas turned to double play in the second with Rio and Davison. Winters offers it one in the dirt, blocked by Miller to keep that ball from rolling too far away.
And that off-speed pitch by Robin Herron is what Coach Courtney Deifel has talked about and really has worked with Robin Herron on, not only gaining confidence in that pitch, but knowing that she does not have to throw that pitch for a strike to get a swing and miss.
It's been fantastic. Now, yesterday, one of those pitches squirted through the legs of Kennedy Miller, went to the backstop, a run scored. When you throw it with the bases loaded, a runner at third base, you want your catcher to smother it. Be curious to see what she does here. 0-2 way ahead in the count. She threw it again and Kennedy blocked it.
And which Kennedy Miller does such a great job behind the plate of is blocking balls. She hardly commits an error behind the plate, just adding to that solid defense that Arkansas has.
She's got the shades on this afternoon. Pitch up and out. So from 0-2 to 2 balls and 2 strikes to South Carolina's cleanup hitter. No place to put Lexi Winters. Big pitch from Herron. Little tapper that Davison is going to throw home, but Miller wasn't on the plate, and everybody's safe, and Carolina scored a run. I feel like that is the third time this series where South Carolina scored a run by utilizing their wheels and their speed, and I don't know if the throw was a bad idea, but certainly Kennedy Miller wasn't expecting it from Davison.
And with this speed of this offense, and this is what South Carolina's offense, it is their bread and butter, manufacturing runs. Situationally for Winters,
look at Kennedy point,
hitting the ball to the right side of the field was spot on. And you're exactly right, Brett. Kennedy Miller was pointing to first base all day long to Davison as she did not feel like she had a play. The easier out would have been at first.
So South Carolina gets the run. Arkansas does not get an out, and there's Chansey who homered in the second. I would say maybe just to talk softball through that sequence, I get it. That play probably should have gone to first. Miller wants it to go to first, but you can't be so far away from the plate in case that throw comes home. You're not even in position to catch.
She was about 2 feet off the plate. I'm sure with trying to communicate to her not to make the throw, she wasn't anticipating it. And that ground ball was very soft. It wasn't a firm hit ball. So when it's soft like that, the runner at third base is gaining ground, running home, flipping it to Bree Ellis, you get an out.
You get the out, and then you're in a position to maybe just allow one this inning. Chansey has a chance to make that prove costly. Saw pop up, pursued by Ellis, and she'll get to the screen, and she ran into that stanchion, and it might have hit her right on the head. There's only one area in that dugout where it would provide a bit of a blow, and Bree was going full speed, full tilt to that pole that is padded, but again, she smacked right into it. There is a hush that has fallen over Bogle Park. I thought, Sydney, there was a split second where Bree was going to maybe even be able to make that catch. Win, maybe just keeping it from getting to that screen, and she was not willing to pull up and take it easy and just paid the price.
And that's tough as she's going full speed into the netting. I can see that there's a wiring that runs about head high where she hit her head that goes right across the dugout and into the pole.
Did the ball hit her as well? But yeah, that pole doesn't have a tremendous give. Head injuries are ones that everybody will take with great caution, and there's her parents, Ron and Molly. Bree was honored yesterday for her senior day. Arkansas doing things a little bit differently, where they're not waiting to the final home game to honor all seniors. They're giving each senior their own weekend. So her family in town from Houston.
And I love that they're doing that. It makes it so special.
Chansey takes high, and now the count has gone full. It does feel like this is a really big sequence in this game.
This is a huge moment where South Carolina, just one swing, could really break this open.
And a payoff pitch to Chansey on the ground past Rio. That's a base hit. Everybody moves up a base, and it's 4-2 South Carolina. Chansey's knocked home 3 runs this afternoon.
And Chansey is on fire, just adding more run support for South Carolina. This swing right here, ball's a little bit down in the zone. She just drops her barrel on top of it, hits it firmly enough to get it past Rio to drive in another run. And this is what this South Carolina offense does. They manufacture runs. It is not the home run that they rely upon to get the job done.
They don't paper cut you to death, but it's kind of a rope-a-dope in the corner in a boxing match. They're not going to knock you out, but they're just going to continue to swing. Blankenship, it's walked in her only plate appearance, still only 1 out this inning. Pitch count is on the rise for Robin Heron. Seven away from 200 this weekend. Trying to find a pitch to get an out, begin this process of accumulating 3. Another one hit foul into the net.
And for Blankenship up at the plate, she is a captain on this team. I thought it was so interesting to listen about how they go about their captain system through the nomination process at the end of the fall. They even have to go through interviews to, be selected as a team captain.
Comebacker. A throw to Miller. Down to first. The 1-2-3 double play will end the 3rd inning. Maybe a bit of a break for the Razorbacks, but the Gamecocks score another 2 to jump. Even when they do technically pitch to her, it doesn't mean they're going to just put one down the middle.
Absolutely not. They're still working around the strike zone, keeping it low in the strike zone. And to go back to her tweet, I just love it because it shows the mindset and mentality of Bree.
Gets under one and skies it to center, but playable for Lelio, who makes the catch.
And to go back to that thought, I saw her in an interview this past week where she was basically saying, I don't think about anything when I go up to the plate. And that is such an art in itself, and something that Coach Courtney Deifels talked about she's had to work on, is not thinking, getting up there and just doing what Bree does.
At some point, you have to kind of let things go, and I think her term was perfectionist anxiety. As McDowell steps in, you want to be perfect, and when you're not, that bothers you. It's not necessarily even the result of the sequence. It's not being perfect or going through this challenging game. McDowell singled back in the first and sends that one to the screen. But she did joke, you know, she didn't want to know her numbers. And when you come up to bat in the SEC series, usually there's these big, beautiful scoreboards. Your batting average is displayed. So you don't even want to look at that.
No. And one thing, when I played here at Bogle Park early on in my career, we had those numbers, and then throughout my career those numbers went away just where it was our names up on the scoreboard.
Ella was almost waiting on that pitch. She was kind of leaning a bit, but still threw a barrel the ball and rolls it into left for her second single of the game. And she's up to 48 base hits. Watch her start to lean a little bit forward here and still be able to wait to throw those hands out.
And that was an outside pitch that she got her barrel around, driving it through the 5-6 hole. And just the consistency in her swing and how well she sees the ball is extremely impressive.
Wyckoff flew out to left in her only at bat. So the winner of this game claims the series as well. Arkansas has had such amazing success in the road in recent years. I think 16 out of 17 road series. They've been able to get wins even this year at Florida, at Tennessee. When you do that, you want to hold serve at home too. You don't want to lose series at home when you're winning tough series on the road.
And one thing that Coach Courtney Deifel talked about, because it was brought up in the call about the wins, you know, on the road, they're playing in hostile environments.
Withers can't locate it, and McDowell takes second.
And what a great read by McDowell. But she talked about, we play in hostile environments. We play in different environments than, of course, what we play at Bogle Park. And our players aren't affected by it. They have that sense of just getting out there no matter what field they're playing on and just staying the course.
I think it's easier said than done, and that'll be a pass ball, by the way, charged to Winters to allow McDowell to advance. I know some would tell you when you come home there's more distractions. Your family's here, there's senior days, and there's this and that. And when you're on the road, it's a little more of a tight group, and you're just concentrating on playing games. That might be too simplistic. I don't think Coach Deifel buys into it, but
I'll tell you, though, personally from playing, I loved playing on the road. I loved playing at home the most, but on the road never bothered me.
Well, Winters has taken a bit of a beating today, and let's see what happened here. Not sure if she just botched it, but it hit the plate umpire, Amarius Addison.
That ball just continued to cut across the plate and down. She just wasn't able to turn her glove over.
Fans not happy because there was a discussion with Winters, and then Coach Chastain Witter came out to talk to Lamb as well. South Carolina had a 2-0 lead. Arkansas tied it at 2, and then the Gamecocks back in front 4-2. Trying to keep Arkansas from answering in the bottom of the third. That pass ball, though, could play a factor because a base hit might score McDowell to cut into this deficit. A lot of times when you're watching a team over a weekend, you have a pretty good idea when there's about to be a pitching change. For South Carolina, the way they mix and match, it's not quite as obvious.
You don't know, and like we discussed in the previous game, that a pitching change was made within an at-bat at a 3-2 count.
3-2 count. That one skips away from Winters. Another free base. McDowell sprints to third, rounds and holds. It has not been a fun afternoon for Winters. She was hit by a pitch. She had the bat hit her on the recoil. Had the pass ball, then could not smother the wild pitch. Fly ball might chase home another Razorback run, but Lamb going after Wyckoff and getting the wave and a miss. So that was huge. Where a fly ball, maybe even a ground ball, would play to the run to get the strikeout. Big pitch.
That is a big pitch and a big response with those two pass balls. It'd be really easy to allow that to rattle you a little bit and get off kilter with your timing. But this pitch, rising and cutting away from Wyckoff.
Courtney Day walked and scored just an inning ago. Came into this series in the top 10 in the league in both home runs and RBIs, but happy to be back in the lineup, but in that 6-hole rather than batting fourth behind Bri Ellis. I would say, Sydney, and maybe I'm wrong on this, I believe for Arkansas to have success throughout the year, I think they've got to find that second and third pitcher. That goes without saying, but I think they need Courtney Day at that plateau she was at in February and March, because again, she's the Robin to Bri Ellis's Batman.
Absolutely. She is a big key component to this offense, especially with the ability she has to hit home runs.
Because if teams do whatever they can to keep Bri Ellis from beating them, others need to step forward. We've seen McDowell do that, but I think the power that Day brings is a little bit different. It's hard to hit home runs on command, though. This ball is poked and foul as Blankenship tried to make the sliding catch. Kind of threw the bat at that ball and didn't get a lot of carry to it, but it was not tracked down by any of the three Gamecocks pursuing.
And you know, throughout the course of the beginning of the season, even the middle of the season, Courtney Day was behind Bri Ellis more as a protectant. The lineup has shifted, as Coach Courtney Deifel discussed, that they just haven't found what clicks quite yet to them in their eyes.
To the backstop, here comes McDowell, and Arkansas is going to get a free run. Pass ball, wild pitch, and it's 4-3. That's a strange sequence. That strikeout gave her, or Lamb I should say, a chance to get out of this inning with no damage done, and then she gave it back.
And what I'm seeing from Lamb on these balls that are getting away from her and are down in the dirt is she's just holding on to the ball way too long past her release point.
Coach Chastain Woodard said something to Amarius Addison, and she covered her mouth as she was talking to our plate umpire, who's now on his way over to talk to Courtney Deifel. I think Courtney Day might have had something in her eye. I don't know if the wind blew some dirt up into her eye or dealing with a nosebleed. Hard to know. But then the umpires, I think, are talking about something different than Day's immediate concern.
And it does look like she has a bloody nose, which I'll tell you, Brett, with the dryness of this air.
There's no doubt. Feels like you're in Colorado. Well, on Friday, Bri Ellis had a 3-2 count, and we went about 8 minutes before we saw the next pitch because of a pitching change, and then there was an issue with the dirt in front of the pitching rubber. Here's a 3-2 today, and that's not close. So she has walked in both of her trips to the plate today, representing the tying run, and Natalia Rio, who homered in her last at-bat, gets a chance to do it again. But she won't get a chance to face Lamb. And no surprise, it's Gress heading back into the circle. We've seen Sam Gress now in all 3 games of the series. We saw Hurt in all 3 games. We saw Robin Aaron in all 3. We'll step aside, come back. Carolina's still up a run. No surprise, here comes Sam Gress back in the circle for South Carolina.
And for Sam Gress, throughout the progression of this series and what her makeup is as a pitcher, she has very unique ball flight. She really likes to work arm side with her fastball and then offset that with a changeup, in which she commands very well.
Yeah, that changeup has been really fun to watch. I know it's given Arkansas some fits. Day still having a problem with the nosebleed. This game is like a Seinfeld episode. There's many plots within the course of the bigger plot, but they all kind of weave together into the same episode.
Adding entertainment to what is already entertaining.
Because you feel like if you don't watch it from the beginning, you're a little bit lost. And I'm not sure if she's going to be pinch run 4 or whether we're going to have to find another solution for that nosebleed. Listen, she's from Pearland. We like humidity in Houston. We don't like dryness. I feel her pain.
Definitely not something that she can control, but it looks like Coach Chastain Woodard's really wanting the progression of this game to pick up.
But again, with Gress now ready to go, and the conversation still continues in that South Carolina dugout, it is that rare ball flight. It is the changeup. It is that run. Here's Rio. She socks one to right. Knight will drift in and make the catch. So one pitch will end the inning. Arkansas gets a run, but the Gamecocks still up 1 through 3.
The right people in the program, and when you have the right people, there's no time frame on success.
I think it's well said as Knight bats. Everybody's trying to find the formula in this new era. How do you get it done? How do you assimilate transfers quickly? How do you build when you've had a coaching change? Knight's one of those players who's been around a little bit, 6th year. Started at BC. Rio with a long run, can't make the play. Off her glove. Rio so good at short, just couldn't run that one down. You know, we even saw it yesterday in SEC football. Nico Iamaleava, whose brother, by the way, is a Razorback quarterback, but he went in, wanted a raise. And Tennessee said, hey, thanks for what you've done for the program. We wish you the best. Even though he could be one of the top 10, I don't know, quarterbacks in the country. But it's the new era we live in. It's going to be a swing and a miss and a throw to first, where whatever used to be normal is no longer.
It's not between NIL and coupled with the transfer portal. But this off-speed pitch by Robin Herron being ahead in the count, she does not throw it for a strike. It starts as a ball and ends as a ball. But with the change in velo, it is a chase pitch that she is getting strikeouts with.
Someone's going to have to go back through these 3 games and add up the number of changeups these hitters have seen on both teams.
Both teams, yes.
It's a lot.
Absolutely.
And it's a great pitch. I don't blame anybody for wanting to call it. Let hitters' aggressiveness get themselves out. Sellers Cade way back in the 2nd. She took a healthy rip.
And I'll tell you, both teams' offenses are different. Arkansas can manufacture runs. They do hit more home runs. South Carolina's more gap to gap. Defensively, they're right there neck and neck. And I would say pitching staff makeup-wise, all pitchers have a similar makeup in their pitch sequences and what they throw.
And again, it is a chess match. Not just in the Brie Ellis sequences. When do you pitch to her? How do you pitch to her? Really, this goes on throughout every half inning, especially this deep into a series in the 4th inning on Sunday. Herron over 200 pitches so far this weekend, but 3 different pitchers now have thrown in all 3 games, and maybe more to come. Not quite the ratio strikes to balls maybe she's had in some other outings, but maybe in a sense, Sydney, it speaks to trying to stay away from the heart of the plate. Then we get our plate umpire. Or
Miller
get Kennedy Miller.
Took a tough shot
She
right
sure did.
back.
Both of these catchers today have just absorbed a couple of shots. Balls, bats. Andrew, the trainer, working, I think, on that shoulder. Ooh, deep breaths, Kennedy. Trying to raise that right arm.
And this ball off of Sellers' bat, just straight shot back to Kennedy Miller. The toughness of catchers in general, but these 2 catchers of what they've faced today.
I bet it feels as if there's no padding whatsoever in that chest protector.
Oh, sure. And it looked as though it got a lot of her arm that's outside of that chest protector as well.
She'd love a couple of quick outs to get off the field. There's one of them. Wave it a miss. Back-to-back strikeouts from Herron here in the 4th inning against the bottom of the lineup.
And for Heron, we want to talk about pitch sequencing. One thing that she has adjusted is throwing her off-speed pitch earlier in the count and just working the ball down in the zone. She has not thrown a lot of rise balls since the first inning.
I think that's a good thought process. Ellis quickly responds and fires to Davison, and Arkansas gets out of the inning with no damage done, and the Arkansas Razorbacks come to bat, trailing by a run. Arkansas is out hit South Carolina 5-3, but work to do. Hi, Papa.
Can we get it, Brett? Oh.
That was our chance.
The cameras weren't on us, but you just made a great effort opening up
first
the
of all,
window.
I got to open the window. I mean, right here, and then I still just about got out to make the catch. But
it's all about the effort. You just put forth great effort.
You know, speaking of effort, though, I was waiting to Kennedy Miller's at bat because she's on deck and she took that shot to her shoulder, and she's going to have to swing the bat after absorbing that blow. My daughter's college team has a parent hitting contest coming up in 2 weeks, and this dad is in training.
Well, Brett, we're going to need to get into the batting cage after the game's over and get some reps in.
Problem is my shoulder hurts like a son of a gun. That ball's driven in the air, deep left. When it lands, it'll be a tie game, and it almost found the parking lot. Carly Davison got one up, out, and long gone. It's a 4-4 contest.
And the recipe of exactly what Arkansas needed to even up this game. And again, due to the home run, this ball's elevated in the zone. Carly Davison gets her hands up to it and stays through it. What a big time swing by Carly Davison to tie this ball game up.
Her first collegiate hit was a home run against Northern Colorado a couple of years ago. Now her last hit has also been a home run, and here's Miller. But my shoulder's killing me, so I'm going to go ask Kennedy how it feels to swing the bat after you take a shot to your shoulder to prepare me for the parents hitting competition, because, Sydney, I'm in it to win it.
You go ask her, Brett, but what I'm going to tell you is you rub some dirt on it and you get out there.
In training, ready to roll. Already working on a pitching plan because I need something firm. I don't need any loopy pitches.
No, you've got to have the speed to help your power.
Miller rolls one to Shelton. She'll gobble it up, throw out Kennedy for the first out of this fourth inning, now tied at 4. Here's Reagan Johnson. All she has done is go 5 for 8 this weekend. Corners creeping in. Johnson takes. Every hitter is allowed to go through an ebb and a flow, and whether that's considered a hot stretch and a slump, I don't know. I feel like teams have pitched and defended Reagan Johnson pretty well at times this year. This is a hitter who's had more than 73 hits each of the last couple of seasons. But it does feel like she's found a little bit of a groove here in these last 2-3 weeks.
Absolutely she has. And I'll tell you, Brett, I was told this from a very young age, being a former slapper myself. Speed really never slumps. You may get into a little bit of a lull, but when you have so many tools in your toolbox to utilize against a team and a defense, it gives you that much more ability to utilize to get on base.
One of the few times that Reagan's hit the ball in the air, and she flies out to Vincent in foul territory for out number 2, and Reagan Kramer bat for the 3rd time. Reagan Johnson came in needing a hit to move into the program's top 10 list all time. Hard to be there. Kramer takes a strike. Another milestone Arkansas reached, though, back on Friday. They got to their 30th win. They're 30-9 after losing yesterday. That is 8 straight seasons where they have won 30 games, not counting the COVID year. That's really a tremendous streak. You might be allowed to have a bump in the road every once in a while, but that's 8 straight seasons of 30 wins or more.
Very impressive. Very impressive to have that many wins consistently over, you know, like you just said, 8 seasons.
Kramer takes, that's down and out, 2-1. Ellis on deck.
And you know, we talked about, or we have talked about over the course of the season, Brett, and calling games together, you know, it's about the culture that Coach Courtney Deifel has brought, but she talked about more so it's just the belief in this place and the people, and in the way that they've stayed committed throughout the course from year 1 to now going on, correct me if I'm wrong, it's year 10 for Coach Courtney Deifel. And it's easy to run the race of comparison, especially within the SEC conference, but just staying the course and staying true to the ability and development of the system they have in place has led to that success.
Count's gone full. Sometimes coaching staffs kind of just run through the cycle where you have some success, you've gotten it as far as you can go, but it's hard to sustain it. They have sustained it here. They're trying to win this series, though, and Kramer's going to take ball 4, and that's a big walk because it'll bring up Bree Ellis. And she's 0 for 2 in this contest. She's popped to first. She's flied out to center. And now facing Gress again. We've taken to watching at-bats when teams pitch to Bree and how they've come down and in or up and in, doing whatever they can to stay away from that hot zone. Even there, she came in and got Bree on those hands to where you hit it foul on the third base side. And obviously, if you're Bree and you get a mistake, you might not get another mistake to hit.
Absolutely, and that's one thing of the pressure of pitching to Bree Ellis is you cannot make that mistake. But they have been working hard, like you said, Brett, hard down and in, hard up and in.
Tried to wait on that one. Was that the change?
That was the change-up.
Caught a lot of plate, but Bree was so far out in front.
Right. Very big strike swing right there.
Dad's videoing. Mom's encouraging. Bree has 6 more homers than she had of all of a year ago. Rolls another one foul.
And with the speed differences of what Gress has just shown right there in the at-bat with Bree Ellis, she's out in front, especially on the changeup, and even that pitch is a more medium of a pitch between her changeup and fastball.
See if this at-bat continues. I've got a thought. We'll wait till after this 0-2. When you're seeing so many changeups as a hitter, can you even tell yourself, I'm going to hit this ball to center. I'm going to keep my hands back. I'm not going to try and pull it because it feeds into what she wants me to do?
As a hitter, that should be your mentality, is keeping your hands back and hitting the ball the other way. Personally, being a softball instructor, that's what I teach my girls.
Soft pop-up out into center. This might be caught. That was a nice effort. Good play by Shelton. She had to hang with it. But Carly Davison able to connect. And for Chile. This is Lilio, who's 0 for 2. California native who has made this trip across the country to play in South Carolina. She was at Oklahoma, and I think her family felt like that was a long ways from Cali. Hard hit to Davison. She'll scoop it up and throw out Lilio to begin the 5th inning. You know, this has kind of this Sunday vibe to it here at the ballpark. And Arkansas has had this mojo. They call it chill vibes. It's kind of their little fun way. And even today I snuck into the hitting area, watching them take BP before the game. As Shelton waves and misses. And they got today's goals on the dry erase board. And the very first one of the players wrote was chill vibes.
There you go. That's a Sunday. The sun is shining. We've got dogs.
Dogs have chill vibes at all times, I think. Shelton doubled back in the 3rd, and it's part of a 2-run inning that put South Carolina in front by a pair. Shelton chases. I tell you what, that changeup, it's one thing to get swings and misses. It's one thing to get a lot of strikes. She gets more swings and misses on balls that are in the dirt, that bounce in front of the plate, that are never close to being strike than any pitcher I've seen in a while.
And I'm going to be honest, Brett, the only thing that I can say about that is maybe within her windup, I will have to say she's a little bit more deceptive with how she releases the ball. Because it's not even starting out as a strike.
Correct.
It's a ball all the way out of, from the time she releases it out of her hand.
Rhodey on deck. That one's popped up and out of play. A few weeks ago, we were talking about that evolution of her changeup and really discussing kind of a unique break or spin to it. Now we're talking about how hitters don't see it even close enough to where they're swinging and looking foolish in so doing. I would imagine she might throw it again. Fouled back. You were talking about her not throwing as many rise balls as we have seen previously, and maybe that's in part today because of the wind. She threw a rise ball last weekend against a Florida hitter, and it was coming up on her, and she swung, and the ball went off her bat into her face mask. And that's in, and that's getting some spin where the hitter can't stop her swing. The ball hits the bat, comes up and hits her in the face mask. With no mask, it would have been in her nostril like Courtney Day, and we would have had another mess.
And talk about a perfectly placed rise ball if she's getting it that far underneath her hands to create that.
And that's right down the pipe. Strike 3 to Shelton. She trots to first. Shelton thought it was ball 4. She gets all the way to first. She couldn't believe it. Now the pitch was right down the chute, but Amarius Addison took a little bit extra long to ring her up, and that might have been part of the confusion. I thought that was as good of a pitch as she could offer.
Absolutely, and for strikeout number 5, Robin Heron throws a hefty amount of off-speed pitches and then just comes in with that curveball on the outer part of the plate.
And this is Rhodey. 12th home run came last night. There's nobody on base, but a long ball would put South Carolina back in front. And it felt like the other night, it was about the 3rd inning when Robin probably wasn't as sharp as she would have wanted to be in the first 2. She had back-to-back strikeouts of Winters and Knight, and Dorian and I said, I think she just flipped the switch. How about that liner? Back to the circle, and Heron spears it. What a bullet. 2 more base hits for Ella. Coming off a weekend where she had 12 hits. Homer and 8 runs batted in. 2 more hits this afternoon. So many big series every weekend in the SEC. I think that goes without saying when there's 12 teams in the top 25. But there was some disagreement amongst the 4 polls even about these teams. There was one poll where Arkansas was higher than South Carolina. The Gamecocks ahead of Arkansas and 3 others. 2 polls had this as a top 8 series. We treated it as a top 11 series in the country. But I would say, Sydney, it has lived up to the billing.
Absolutely, and we talked about it earlier, but this is such a great matchup between these 2 teams. There's a lot of comparisons between the 2 teams defensively and in the circle. This matchup right here was definitely one to watch over this weekend.
Question is, what will the final chapter look like in this book, and how will it come out? And McDowell takes a strike. What Arkansas has never done today, though, is have a lead. And maybe hoping that they can do so here with the 4, 5, and 6 hitters due up, although Carolina needs the right technology to work. Everything came easy for the Razorbacks for that stretch where they had 14 unanswered runs. It's hard to do that. It was a little bit like Rory McIlroy going 9 under in a 13-hole stretch at Augusta. Everything goes right. And then at some point you're waiting for maybe that counterpunch. And Carolina provided it yesterday with the 5 runs to end the game and win it 5-4. We've gone back and forth today. Again, the Hawks, though, have never had a lead. Lifted to Lelio in center, fighting the winds. That was not a comfortable catch in center. Saw a lot of yellow in that glove as it kind of rattled around. Maybe she needs those glasses. She's saying that sun's bright, and I think she got her teammate to hand her some glasses.
And I'll tell you from experience, about 2 o'clock this time, that is exactly where the sun's going to be sitting, is right behind home plate. The sunglasses are definitely critical.
Well, those came from Vincent. Vincent said, you need these more than I do. Wyckoff is 0 for 2. Aggressive pitch. Lifted to Lelio. Sunglasses on, though, and she will track it down and make that catch. So she's had 2 putouts. One in left center, one in right center. Courtney Day has walked in both of her trips to the plate. She's still got that gauze up in her nostril, doesn't she?
I see it. She definitely does, but just adds a little bit more character.
If you have to leg at a double, are you breathing okay out of one nostril?
I don't know if she's probably even thinking about that right now. Can't be too comfortable, though.
She's not seen a lot to hit so far today. Remember when her Texas team came through and won that Super Regional here, and I know there's a lot of local fans who still aren't quite over that. Went on to the World Series, and she had 3 consecutive games with homers in Oklahoma City, so she has done it on the biggest of stages under the brightest of lights. Flare out to Vincent in left, who is playing shallow. She'll make the catch. Arkansas hit 3 balls in the air, nothing to show for it. They go in order. Still tied at 4 through 5. Fourth in opponent's batting average. LSU was 3rd and 3rd, but Arkansas was 2nd and 10th.
Interesting.
Those 2 don't go hand in hand. Now, the one area you would think of, or maybe 2, is walks and home runs. Big, costly home runs that score 3 or 4 with 1 swing that don't affect the batting average but do affect the earned run average. Well, today, South Carolina, they've had a hit batter who scored, a player who's walked who has scored, a 2-run homer. So they only have 3 hits, but they have 4 runs.
Sure.
So you get late in these games and you faced a team now 2 or 3 times. You're worried about one big swing or maybe a walk and a big swing that could tilt this game and this series to South Carolina.
And it's the free bases that really make a difference. To your point, you know, when you issue the walk and get a runner on base, and with the ability to manufacture a run or to hit a home run, that's what makes the difference. You've got to minimize the walks.
As we say that, the count has gone full. Robin has retired 8 straight Gamecocks, and in that stretch, she's recorded 9 outs. You can't do much better than that, but look at that pitch count, too. 4 in the first, had a 10-pitch inning. Wants a verdict here, and Chansey fouls one back. Chansey had the home run in the second, an RBI single in the third, so she's driven in 3 of her team's 4 runs. This will be the 90th for Herron today. Over 230 this weekend. She gets the wave and a miss. Chansey chased the rise ball, and Sydney, there haven't been a ton of pitches up in this dome, but what a time to throw it, and she gets the swing and a miss.
And for Robin Herron, she utilized her rise ball earlier in the game, transitioned using her drop, screw, and curve, and now she's back to throwing that rise ball that just hops through the top of the strike zone.
What a pitch. Blankenship bounced into a 1-2-3 double play with the bases loaded to end the third. So Herron handled that. She threw home to Miller, on to Bri Ellis to end an inning where a couple of runs had scored. Then Herron caught the line drive by Rhodey right back at her coconut to end the 5th, and has fielded her position nicely today. That's poked out to right, so that's a base hit from Blankenship, which will end the streak of 9 straight Gamecocks that have been retired.
And for Blankenship, that's the best swing that the South Carolina has put on Robin Herron's off-speed pitch today. She kept her hands back, allowed it to travel deep, and she stayed on it, driving it to the right side of the field. And that's what you want to do with an off-speed pitch. And not to go back to your point earlier, Brett, but talking about issuing the walks, the inning that South Carolina drove in 2 runs off of base hits, there were 2 walks prior to put them into the position to get bases loaded.
Had some quick conversations before Abigail Knight steps into the box. Check of the lineup card as well. Knight has struck out, hit into a double play. Knight will take and look at one a little bit up. She started today batting above 300. She's fallen below that plateau, but a chance for a big swing here in the top of the 6th against Herron. Closing in on triple digits worth of pitches in this Sunday start. Now 2-0. That's on the corner for a strike. If you're thinking about Blankenship trying to steal, she's in this little match with Bree Ellis. Bree standing right in front of her on the base. Or she will, and then watch Bree right in front of her, and then she will charge before the pitch. So Blankenship has to go around Bree, and that one's socked to the right center for a base hit. Johnson will cut it off. Blankenship goes to third. Back-to-back 2-out singles, and the Gamecocks have runners on the corners. And the go-ahead run standing at third.
And this is a solid piece of hitting by Knight. It's a ball that's down in the zone. She drives her lower half, dropping her barrel on it to drive it back up the middle. And Reagan Johnson cutting that ball off. But with the speed of Blankenship, she's going first to third on that ball all day.
Good swing, though, on the low pitch. Her first hit of the day. And here's Sellers. 2 very different days. 3 hits yesterday for Sellers. Couple of strikeouts this afternoon, but a big chance here. And that's on the corner, I thought. No, it was not. Some oohs and ahs downstairs. Sellers got the start in left field midweek. DPing this weekend. All of a sudden it's 2-0. Vincent on deck. So a couple of quick outs this inning before back-to-back singles. Sellers had no intent to swing. By the way, she has a dog and a cat named Maverick and Goose after Top Gun, so maybe she's enjoying the festivities here of Dog Days or Bark in the Park.
When you're an animal lover, definitely.
Maybe it provides a little jolt. She's trying to give her team some juice. The 2-1. That's on the corner. That was a similar looking pitch to earlier in the sequence. Now Knight does take second. Kennedy Miller did not want to throw through with 2 outs and now 2 strikes, but a base hit could produce a pair of runs. 100 pitches for Robin Herron on this Sunday. She's pitched in all 3 games of the series. She's trying to keep this game tied, and a big pitch that's not close. And now the count has gone full. Arkansas has 2 pitchers throwing in the bullpen. I think the conversation as of late has been, how much more do you have in the tank? How does that grip strength feel tomorrow? But she needs to make a pitch. Sellers wants to deliver for the Gamecocks. Here we go, and a 3-2 is on the way. Wave and a miss. Sellers chase the high one. Herron gets the K, and the Gamecocks strand 2 in scoring. Rio, Davison, and Miller here in the bottom of the 6th. Tied at 4. Yesterday, South Carolina won the game in front of the 10th largest crowd in Bogle Park history, more than 3,500. Today about 2,900, but that doesn't count the 80 dogs. Mile high fly ball to Lelio off the bat of Rio, fighting the sunshine and the breeze, and she'll make the catch. And that is 5 straight balls hit in the air that have been recorded as outs against Gress. This is not a comfortable catch in center she's been making.
Absolutely not. You've got the wind that you're fighting, and then also the sun being in dead center. That's why it's important that once the ball's hit, getting your glove up to see where the ball is located. But going back to that conversation with Coach Courtney Deifel and Robin Herron about how much she has left in the tank, I'll tell you, Brett, she's gained even more momentum as the game has progressed. And I'll have to say the last 2 innings, her pitches have been even sharper, in my opinion, than what they were the 4 innings prior. What
she hasn't had all day is the lead. Davison's homer back in the 4th tied things up. Carly batting again. She nearly took out her camera guy on the ledge. This was the 4th inning, and I would say this would qualify as a no-doubter.
A no-doubter so much that it was almost into the parking lot.
She had 2 homers all year coming into this game. If she launches one now, she'd have 2 in this contest and put the Hogs in front. Another one popped up. Blankenship used her hand to kind of shade her eyes, and Arkansas is really in elevate mode, and that's a couple of quick outs now for Kennedy Miller. Is Gress doing something as far as working up in the zone to kind of create hitters with a lot of straight up contact?
I was just about to make that point that she too, similarly to Robin Herron, has started utilizing her rise ball a lot more, especially in the last 2 innings to get flyouts. It's her rise ball. It starts on the same plane as her other pitches, and it's about a foot in front of the plate, the break that it gets and the spin that's on it.
Well, Cam Harrison is going to hit 4 for 8 this year with the bat. Seen her pitch 16 different games as well. Going to take strike 1. 3 doubles in her 4 hits. And she's batting for Kennedy Miller. Boy, does she ever spread out wide in that box.
She definitely has a very wide stance, and you'll see hitters get into a wider stance more, than other hitters to use the lower half a lot more. She doesn't really take much of a stride, if any at all, to fire her backside and to get it going.
What kind of strength does it require then, or hip strength, to be able to drive a ball when you're not striding at all?
It's not that much different, and there are hitters that prefer to swing without a stride. You just have to make sure that you're loading into that back hip and getting that back knee started first to get your backside through.
Did she offer it to change? Another an appeal, another no, says Thomas Meyer. They appealed earlier on a ball I didn't think she swung at all, but the pitch looked pretty good. Well, now it's 2-2. Reagan Johnson on deck. Bloop to center, base hit. So Harrison gets the single to keep the inning alive and turn this lineup over. But as Reagan Johnson comes to the plate, she's not somebody that has hit a lot of balls in the gap where maybe you could score a run. You still might need another 2 hits to be able to score a run unless you get a wild pitch or some help.
Sure, and Reagan Johnson does have the capability of driving the ball in the gap, but Reagan Johnson's job in this moment with 2 outs, it's to get on base and to pass the bat.
Casey Wood running at first. It still feels to me like a game where someone's going to have to crank one rather than string together 3 or 4 hits, but we'll see.
One thing could make a difference. And to go back to the point with what Gress is throwing, Coach Chastity Woodard talked about her ball flight. She is extremely spinny. It's not even that the ball is firm. Her pitches are very spinny.
That was a nice stop by Winters to secure that one. Remember, Arkansas got a run in the 3rd on a pass ball, wild pitch. That looked like it had the potential of maybe squirting away. Corners creeping in. Chansey from 3rd, Rohde from 1st. Socked into left, a base hit. Hard contact. Wood goes to second. She represents the go-ahead run. It will take potential at least one more hit if Arkansas is to take the lead, but here comes Reagan Kramer.
And this slap, this power slap by Reagan Johnson, the way that she keeps her body and her chest shut and her hands back just blisters it through the 5-6 hole.
Let me just throw out a scenario as we're going to have a conversation in the circle. Reagan Kramer, one of the best strike zone aware hitters in the game, who walked at her last at bat, comes to the plate. Should she draw a walk here, she'd load the bases for Bree Ellis with no place to put her in a tie game in the 6th inning, which is the case that no opposing team wants to have to contend. No option.
Absolutely, especially with bases loaded and needing a run to put you ahead. But for Reagan Kramer, she has such great plate discipline and has the capability of drawing a walk, but she can also drive in that run from second.
Indeed, that's the case. So remember, Wood, the pinch runner, becomes an important participant in this 6th inning. Kramer had 3 hits last night, 0 for 2 with a walk here in game 3. Arkansas's baseball team has gone to extra innings in Athens. Might we have extras here? Still tied into the bottom of the 6th. Gress will pitch, and she flutters one up and out. The Kramer was just, you could see her thinking about that the entire way. Swing, not swing, take.
And impressive to see the ball that, long into the catcher's mitt. That was definitely a borderline pitch, but don't want to swing at first pitch changeup in this situation.
You do not, or that one either. So now it's 2-0, and you got to believe that she wants a pitch that she can drive. She's not going to chase, or doesn't want to chase, anything borderline. First and second, 2 outs. Well placed offering from Gress. Ball game on the line, you would think, here in the bottom of the 6th. South Carolina stranded 2 in scoring position at the top of this frame. High again. And again, we know who's waiting or looming on deck. Bree Ellis waiting patiently, sitting on an 0 for 3 this afternoon. What will Gress give Kramer to hit? Nothing. And that scenario we just forecasted is going to come to fruition. And over the last couple of weeks, teams have been doing whatever they can to either walk Bree Ellis or not to have to pitch to her. And yet with the tie game, every base occupied, there is no choice. We've seen teams even work around her, in essence, maybe hoping she will chase, but you don't want to walk her here either.
Not going to be able to work around her and allow her to work the count up. Gress is going to have to go at Bree Ellis in this at-bat with bases loaded, being a tied ball game.
She's popped to first. She popped to second, that carried out into shallow center. She flew out to shallow center. Bases for the Razorbacks. Bree Ellis waiting on a 0-1 pitch. Boy, that was the one to swing it.
And that pitch, it is such an impressive pitch, Brett, because it is almost a low rise ball, but that starts at the knees and just works up enough. It's a very impressive pitch.
What a start for Gress. She's jumped ahead 0-2. Here's the offering that is down, and there was the changeup, and maybe Bree expecting that pitch. Ellis has reached base in 15 straight games, but not today. Bases full of Razorbacks, tie game, the pitch to Ellis, and it hit her. It grazed her on the elbow. Bree Ellis gets an RBI the easy way. And for the first time today, the Razorbacks have the lead. And what a way for the most feared hitter in college softball to get her 60th run batted into the season. It nicked her. Coach Chastain Woodard talking to Amarius Addison. Did it just glance off that elbow guard?
And this off-speed pitch gets just enough.
Did it get her belt?
I'm going to say it got her back elbow from the view that we just saw, but let's take another look at it. It's not that it...
Well, you see a change of direction. I think it was almost easier to see it from the side. She's pointing to that elbow.
Ruling on the field is hit by pitch that is being challenged by South Carolina. Players under review.
The tough part, Sydney, about a pitch that ends up in the glove of Winters, if it did indeed graze Bree, is that you might be going on sound. You might be going on that nick or that little audible sound that the plate umpire has that you don't have available on replay. I thought from that side swing you saw a little change in direction.
And this is even a better look right here. As it's cutting in, I'm going to say it gets the back elbow. Right before it gets into Winter's mitt, it gets Bree Ellis's back elbow.
I think it just nicked it, and I mean just nicked it.
Gets
After
the
review,
sleeve.
the ruling on the field is upheld. It is hit by pitch.
I appreciate the upheld and pre-celebrating. I think we need more confirmed upheld stands to add some explanation.
And you know, we talk about this game being a game of inches, Brett, and I think right there just shows that it is indeed
How about
a game
millimeters?
of inches. Millimeters, in fact.
That's a happy Hog dugout. Here's Ella McDowell, and now the Razorbacks with the lead, looking for some separation or some insurance. But it shows you how you don't want to give Ellis anything to hit. You want to come up and in. You want to stay away from the heart of the plate where you will hit her from time to time.
Absolutely. And that's where they were working that side of the plate the entire day against Bree Ellis, is up and in and down and in.
2 more hits in the game for Ella McDowell. That's an incredible pitch from Gress to dump it in for strike 2. Ella had the 5 runs batted in Friday as Arkansas won in run rule fashion in 6 innings. Pokes one to second. There is Shelton. She'll make the play to end the inning. Arkansas leaves the bases loaded. For the first time today, they have the lead as we go to the 7th. Works in the 7th. First time all day she's had a lead. Working to 9, 1, and 2. And Vincent takes a ball. I thought Amarius Addison was getting ready to say strike. Kennedy Miller turning around and saying something to him. He flinched, but didn't raise his right arm. Vincent walked and scored back in the 3rd inning, trying to get on base for the top of the lineup. And Heron delivers a strike. When you pitch in all 3 games of a series, again, there are no secrets this deep into game 3. Heron has changed up her sequencing maybe a little bit at times, painting, changeups, not as many rise balls, but we've seen a few of those get some strikeouts later in these games.
And she's done an incredible job of changing her sequencing throughout the course of this game and keeping South Carolina off balance, especially these last 2.5 innings.
Ground ball to McDowell. Strong throw to first. One big out in the top of the 7th inning. South Carolina wins. They're a game above 500 in league play. A loss, they fall below. For Arkansas, either they're going to be at 500 or they're starting to climb above the break-even mark after beginning 1-5 through a couple of series against Oklahoma and Ole Miss. This is Lelio, yet to reach base today, and that's the high strike that's been given. It's 0-1. Shelton and Rhodey to follow the meat of this lineup for South Carolina. So Lelio trying to get on base. Every weekend is such a battle in the course of this conference. And sometimes it comes down to Sundays to decide a series. Sometimes it comes down to that last inning on a Sunday to do just that. That one's rocketed into center. It'll drop in front of Johnson. That's a big hit. It brings Shelton to the plate. representing the go-ahead run. And it probably means Rhodey will bat, barring a double play. And, of course, she had the homer yesterday.
And for South Carolina, that swing by Lily Lowe, that's exactly what you want to get things started. She was very patient earlier in the at-bat and gets a solid pitch to drive back up the middle.
Was that a rise ball that didn't have enough
Absolutely.
elevation?
It was a rise ball that stayed more flat, that didn't have much up break. Still was an up pitch in the zone, and for Lilio, with how silent her hands are and how quick she is to contact, she put a great swing on the pitch.
Shelton doubled back in the third. Struck out against Robin in the fifth. Paints the corner for a called strike. Two weekends ago, Arkansas had to win a game 2-1 on Sunday to win and sweep the series against Kentucky. Another high strike. Last weekend, they had that 9-inning gut punch on Saturday. They were an out away from winning at a 9, a grand slam end of the game. They had to come back on Sunday and win that game to win the series 9-5. It has been every bit of battle today on a windy afternoon at Bogle Park. The two-strike pitch, that is going to be a strikeout. Did she foul it or did she just swing and miss?
I heard
get a piece
ball
of
hit
it?
the bat. Yeah, she got a piece of it.
I thought she swung and missed and the ball hit her, but enough contact made that even on a pitch that was trending right at her, she made enough contact to avoid a strikeout. I think our umpires are talking about this exact same scenario.
Absolutely, and this ball, it is trekking right at Shelton. She definitely gets a piece of it, hitting her up in her face mask.
Remember what I was saying about the rise pitch last weekend? That a Florida hitter made contact with up and in, and it came in and hit her right in that mask. And then Coach Steifel might want to review this one while we have time. The umpiring crew already got together, and again, it was such a awkward, odd sequence that I don't think you blame anybody for wondering if she just swung and missed, but obviously that helmet came off on the contact she made on a pitch that rode so far in. But that would have been something to swing and miss and have the ball hit you and be out.
Absolutely. And just with what I'm taking, Brett, with the trajectory of the ball coming off of her bat up into her face mask.
The ruling on the field is foul ball. Arkansas is challenging for a dead ball swinging strike. It is under review.
Well explained. Always good to have those microphones working and operable. Let's see it again. Yeah, I think it clearly hit the bat.
Right off of the barrel, it shoots up under her face mask. If she would have swung and missed, it would have
After
more
review,
so
the
hit
ruling
her.
on the field is upheld. It is a foul ball.
I think the helmet flying off gives you
Yeah.
a different visual just to take in and comprehend.
Absolutely. If she would have purely swung and missed, it would have hit her more in her arm or her chest. This ball touches the inner part of her handle.
Hawkeye has really been an elevation in the bat and ball sports. Here's another two-strike pitch. Roped, fouled outside of first. Makes me wonder why we didn't have it before, or if that technology was even available. I know nothing's cheap in today's day and age, but this game's still very much alive. 0-2 the count to Shelton. Another big pitch from Heron. Popped up, foul, Ellis over, but it's going to be above the dugout and into the seats. We had Bree Ellis run into a post earlier. She was hit by a pitch that grazed her elbow. We've had a swing and a foul ball into a helmet. We've had a bloody nose.
We've seen it all, almost it all today here
Seen
at
a lot.
Bogle Park.
Another 0-2. Past Ellis, into right, that's a base hit. What a big sequence. Shelton was down 0-2, but delivers the base hit. So now the tying run is at second base. The go-ahead run is aboard at first.
And talk about a gritty at bat from Shelton. That ball is down and out of the zone, but she gets just enough of it to drive it through the 3-4 hole.
Ellis was near the base, so that complicated matters, lunging to her right. And Rode had the big swing yesterday. Remember what she did her last time in? She hit an absolute rocket back at the head of Robin Herron, who speared it and made the catch to end the inning. Arkansas's first baseman put them in front. Can South Carolina's first baseman Tyre give her team the lead in the 7th? Pitch number 117. This was yesterday. Remember, South Carolina at one point down 4-0. They came back, took a 5-4 lead and won on this swing. From Ariana Rode.
And that's what did the trick for them to beat Arkansas yesterday in Game 2.
Herron's been working ahead in the count, but has been unable to finish off these last couple of hitters, and good ones at that. Well, she's ahead again, 1-2. I'm not sure if she's going on fumes or adrenaline. She's trying to get it to the finish line, and South Carolina looking for another big swing. Lelio at second, Shelton at first. Fouled back to the netting.
And she is taking some cuts, Brett. I'll tell you, one thing about South Carolina, and especially Rode, is the physicality and the mentality these players have. They are aggressive every swing that they take.
Fun battle. Rode waiting. Blocked nicely by Kennedy Miller. We've seen Herron kind of alternate, trying to get some outs or some verdicts on the rise balls. We've seen a few changeups trying to do the same thing. What would you throw here, 2-2?
I would throw an up and rise ball on this 2-2 pitch to try to get a strikeout swinging.
See, I'd go changeup. Let's find out. The 2-2. I wouldn't bounce it.
But I only say that because this inning her changeup hasn't been as on. But also for South Carolina, they've done a good job of adjusting, not swinging at that pitch that's bouncing in front of the plate.
I would say they've seen it a few times.
Absolutely.
Both today and this entire weekend. The count has gone full. Lexi Winters on deck. They always say getting those final outs are the most difficult. I think we're watching that come to fruition. Vincent grounded out to start the frame, but base hits by Lelio and Shelton. And the count is full to Rode. Herron ready. Here comes the payoff. Rocketed back to the mound again. How about a double play to win the game and win the series? Rode hit another bullet that Herron speared. Self-preservation and ball game in one fell swoop. What a way to decide a game in a series. Another rocket back to the circle, and Robin Herron survives. Arkansas wins.
Brett, I'm going to tell you the resiliency of Robin Herron coming out and pitching a complete game to get the win for Arkansas, and the second hard hit ball that's been hit back at her, and she does her job.
I think she had to make sure that ball was in the glove before she threw to Bree Ellis, who spiked it with some joy, and Arkansas wins it 5-4. A bases loaded hit by pitch. Robin Herron, a gutty performance to get to the wire. I got to tell you what, sometimes you wonder what the emotions are like of somebody who's just come off the field. Well, we're going to ask Robin Herron just that. She caught the line drive. Robin, how are you feeling this many pitches deep into the weekend and after